Greetings, kindred. So, let me pull this down a bit. As you can see, I'm starting with Saturn retrograde chart. Now, we're coming up to the new moon on the 18th of June, but Saturn will begin his retrograde journey the day before on the 17th. Now, I'm recording this on the 16th. So, on the 17th of June, the day before the new moon, Saturn's retrograde will begin at 17:53 here in the GMT time zone. Now, if you want to know when Saturn begins its retrograde in your locality, just go to the world clock and convert 17:53 GMT London to your locality and you'll get your time. So I just wanted to talk about Saturn a little bit first. Now, he's not making loads of aspects as he begins his retrograde. Now, as you know, I always say, when a planet first turns retrograde, it kind of, portrays the theme of that journey. So there will be chops and changes along the way, but the overall theme will be as Saturn starts his retrograde, what aspects he will be into the other planets. And, Saturn will begin his retrograde in Aquarius at 9 degrees. Now, this is true lifetime sky astrology. It's based on astronomical settings, not the man-made map. And, so Saturn is actually in Aquarius, not Pisces right now. So as Saturn begins his retrograde, he will be in square to Mercury, and in sextile to Jupiter, who's conjunct the North Node. So Saturn in Aquarius is already kind of bringing something different to the table. Do you know what I mean? So Saturn is normally pretty rigid in his established ways. He's very traditional, very much, follows the book. But when he's in Aquarius, he acts a little bit out of character. He's willing to invite in newer things, especially in his retrograde. Because in his retrograde mode, in Aquarius, he will be analysing all the old structures in his life and how to bring newness to them, how to evolve them in a more fresher way. And that's a good thing in some respects. But, with the square towards Mercury, it can be quite corruptive as well. So it can be, in square with Saturn in square to Mercury, it can be a little bit kind of dishonest or inhibiting, really. There's been so much going on in the world, especially in the last 3 years, where, we kind of feel at times, I suppose, that we just want to give up because no matter what roads we want to take our lives down in the organic sense, we feel like we're going to be blocked or we're going to be inhibited. So, in one respect, we know we've got to move forward in a new way, that we have to accept change. But we need to be aware also that that change has to resonate with our soul. We need to recognize that we are sovereign beings because Aquarius does represent sovereignty. And with Saturn there, Saturn's beginning to open up to that concept. But at the same time, he holds back if he's not confident, if he is kind of worrying about things or, spending time too much in worrying about things. And with Mercury in Taurus, and Taurus is all about luxury, material comforts. Do you know what I mean? It's like People want to hold on to things, but at the same time know that they need to release to bring in something new. So it's basically, replacing the old with new, or even more to the point, revamping the old, like upcycling a bit of furniture. So if we see, especially with the Taurian energy, if we've got a bit of furniture that's a bit worn, a bit tired, our natural instinct is to throw that bit of furniture away and buy something new. But with this concept, with Saturn in Aquarius, we should be really looking at that bit of furniture, or it invites us to look at that bit of furniture and say, what can I do to make this look brand new again? So we can revamp it, we can either sand it down and revarnish it if it's a wooden object. If it's not wooden, if it's furniture, upholstery, we can reupholster or we can repaint. Whatever it is, it's all about recycling. And not just with furniture. I mean, I'm only speaking about that kind of aspect because of the Taurian energy here. But we could also be talking about like gardens, like maybe turning a flower garden into a veggie garden, and the ideas are there, but it's action that is needed right now. And I think the Ophiuchus, actually, the Ophiuchus full moon we just had recently, I think a lot of people have come into their awareness because Ophiuchus isn't so much about the material. I mean, Ophiuchus alongside Scorpio is opposite Taurus. So Ophiuchus isn't so much about money and material comforts. With Ophiuchus, it's more about survival and keeping things as organic as possible. Do you know what I mean? Ophiuchus isn't into the man-made systems, isn't into man-made synthetics, isn't into man-made currency. Ophiuchus really is all about trade. It's all about, you know, keeping things natural and in their pure form. That's why Ophiuchus is about herbal remedies. It is about, nature, aligning our minds, body, and souls with nature, listening to, watching out, I should say, for signs and symbols. I mean, Ophiuchuses are like the Dr. Dolittles. They will talk to the animals. They will, have this telepathic connection with like the animal kingdom, the ethereal kingdom, as well as Aquarius. I mean, Aquarius in mythology is the mother of Ophiuchus, and Saturn is the father of Ophiuchus. So with Saturn in Aquarius, I mean, Saturn in Sumerian represents Anu. In Egyptian, he is the father of Osiris. Now, Anu, when he used to come down to Tiamat, he used to mine for peat and opals to take back to his own planet, Maldak. But while he was down here, I mean, through the beautiful healing energies of Tiamat and the natural organic living down here on Tiamat, he was able to, see life through different eyes. He was able to, experience the wonderful healing that the natural organic world offers. Do you know what I mean? So he got to that point in his life where he was looking for something a little bit different. He was kind of coming to terms with the fact that it wasn't just the material things that mattered in life, that it was also, his way of living. He was just looking for something a little bit more. And that's when he met Nama, the high priestess of Tiamat, and they came into union. and had a child. Now, Nama was a different being from Anu, but he'd spent so much time down here, and the serpent beings that used to walk Tiamat at the time were so used to the Maldekans being down here. So it was like they got used to each other because, of course, you know, the Maldekans would have had to have like the blessings of the serpent people to come down here and do what they was doing. But the serpent people, they were generous, they were healers. Of course they want to help people, and they had the resources to do that. They was abundant in resources, so it was nothing for the Maldeckers to come down and mine for peat, mine for opals. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing to them. And, you know, they did build up this camaraderie between each other and socially accepted each other. So it wasn't unusual down here on Tiamat for Anu and Nama to come together into union, but it was actually for the people of Maldak, especially Anu's wife on Maldak. It was horrendous. It was, you know, absolutely disgusting that the king of Maldak would lower himself to mate with a lower class person. So the Maldekans were very materialistic, and they did look down on the serpent people because the serpent people were all about organic living. You know, they were all about the simple life. I mean, their prosperity came from sound, you know, healing sounds and nurturing the land and unconditionally loving each other. There was harmony. It was such a simple life, and the Maldecans really did look down on the serpent people, saw them as unambitious. So when Anu and Nama come together, and Nama got pregnant with Anu's firstborn son, Osiris, it was really a scandal for the Maldecans. So this is why I'm telling this story of Anu and Nama, because Saturn in Aquarius is Saturn coming together with Nama, you know, Anu and Nama. And, you know, the strangest thing is, and it's not really strange because it would make perfect sense to me, but Saturn, before Uranus was discovered, was the original ruler of Aquarius. So I think that's what we're beginning to see right now. A lot of people are beginning to understand or recognize that, you know, the world itself and the resources need to be upcycled, and not in the respect, not in a corporate respect, but in a more organic community respect. So with Saturn here in sextile to Jupiter, this is really the opportunity that Saturn in Aquarius in retrograde. Remember, this is all about reflection. Retrograde is all about reflection, going over old ground. And, you know, in sextile to Jupiter and the North Node, it's like, yeah, we need to come together in communities. We need to be more charitable towards each other. We need to be more unconditionally loving towards each other, regardless of our views and our outlooks, either in politics, religion, or any of those things are maybe important to us. You know, some of us are not religious, but we are very spiritual. We do believe in the divine essence, but we don't follow religion in a sense. But then religion is just, you know, the meaning of religion means way of life, the way we live our lives. So with spiritual people that are not necessarily religious, we tend to want to be unconditionally loving, but we also want to work with the land. We want to work with natural resources. It's just a natural instinct we come into when we gain that awareness. And I think a lot of people come into that awareness. And the motivation is there, but the action is lacking. Maybe it's lacking through what's the point? You know, maybe some attitudes out there could be, what's the point? Because no matter what way I turn, I'm going to be blocked because I want to do things this way. And it goes against the current trends. It goes against the new rules and regulations. You know, it's not going to be long before they come in and stop me from fulfilling my ideals or my ideas. Or we could be worrying like we don't know how to go about it. You know, we can't absorb information at the moment. The energies have just been so disorganized, so disruptive that it's been hard for us to hear ourselves think at times. We're always being distracted by one thing or another. If it's not politics, it's like resources, if it, you know, but really, if we can put it all into one big bubble and just see it for what it is, you know, it's not, you know, if we do a little bit of research into what it means to be a human being living here on planet Earth right now, if we can look into that and research that, then we will reach the understanding that, hold on a minute, I have rights. I have rights over my body. I have rights over my life. I have rights to speak my truth. I have a right to feel the way I want to feel, to think the way I want to think. That's my human right. And if we can all get into that mode, then we will fare better on our journeys. But also with this Saturn Mercury square, you know, it can be kind of like a dishonest husband when it comes to the media. Do you know what I mean? So we need to watch out for that because that's been going on for quite some time. So again, we're seeing a lot going on in the media. But is it really important? Really? Because I'm seeing things in the world that are far more important right now that are not being discussed. Rather than all this charade over who did what, when. I mean, we're going back 3 years ago. Here in the UK, it's all kicking off in the media about politicians and what they got up to in 2020. Who cares? All they're really showing to us is how really important that time really was. It's just so distracting and foolish, really, because there's much more important things that should be discussed right now that aren't being discussed. And that is just my personal opinion and the opinion of a lot of other people, you know. So that really, I wanted to cover Saturn's retrograde and the theme around that. All I just want to say is if you get an idea, you just need to get the motivation. Now, the one good thing the full moon in Fucus did give us was the motivation, was the ideas, was the downloads, was the connection. I mean, you know, I'd love to hear from you actually what you experience yourself at the Ophiuchus full moon, because for me, it was like, wow, you know, I wasn't so much getting downloads like I normally get, to be honest. But I got this enormous surge of energy, you know, although the full moon did take place conjunct my Sun and Mercury. Um, I got this enormous surge of energy, which was very good because I'm working on an allotment right now, planting vegetables and doing a lot of digging. I've also got quite a hefty green garden that I have to deal with. But I've also been upcycling furniture. So, I'm in a focus anyway with an Aquarius moon. So I'm just naturally like that from birth. Do you know what I mean? But we've all got a focus in our charts. We've all got Aquarius in our charts. We just need to align ourselves with that energy and get motivated. If we're a Capricorn, Virgo, or even a Taurus, then we are going to maybe feel a little bit stressed out right now with the way the world is going. Because, these earth signs are all about the material world. And that's not in a negative way. It's just like, they're the constructive, earthbound people that do see the importance of the material. So I'm not knocking the material world because we all need material things. I need a table to put my computer on. Do you know what I mean? But I'm quite happy to upcycle something and make it look beautiful. And I get a great satisfaction out of being creative in any way. I sew, I garden, I paint, I write, I meditate, I I just love creativity in all its forms. Do you know what I mean? And I'm always willing to take a risk with it. But for those of you out there that are a little bit more grounded or a little bit more stuck in a rut, stuck in your own routine, do you know what I mean? It's hard to break out of that sometimes, but sometimes we need to push ourselves out there, especially in this day and age. So I just wanted to cover that. But yeah, please do let me know. Anybody out there that did have downloads or did have a wonderful experience around the Focus full moon. Anyway, let's move on to this new moon now. So the new moon will begin. I'm sorry if you can hear all the traffic and stuff outside. Because I'm actually in my living room. Normally I do this in my bedroom because it's quieter up there. It's at the back of the house. But I'm actually in the front of the house by the main road, busy road. It's not a main road, but it's a very busy road. So I do apologise if you can hear that. I will try and block it out. So the new moon will begin on the 18th of June, which is also my granddaughter's birthday, at 5:37 in the GMT time zone, at 00:37, so just past midnight in the EDT time zone, and at 14:37 in the AEDT time zone. And the new moon will take place or begin in Taurus. And really, the sun is coming towards the last degrees of Taurus now. And we'll be moving into Gemini over the next few days. So what have we got here? I mean, the moon in Taurus, they call it a green thumb aspect, a green thumb placement. It can be very productive. Do you know what I mean? And we can, like, making something out of nothing. But also we have an aspect with Jupiter and sextile to the moon. And that is also a green thumb aspect. So again, it's all about being charitable and optimistic and using our integrity, being creative or gaining creative insights, although the Jupiter sextile moon is in a kite aspect. So we'll get to that in a minute. So the moon and sun will also be in conjunction to the goddess Juno at 33 degrees. Now, this really is all about dedicating ourselves. I mean, Taurus is about, like the material, the financial world. He's a hard worker. He's very good at seeing things through. So I do feel, even though, Saturn goes retrograde the day before, and the theme around that is about being blocked and inhibited, with this Taurus new moon, I feel that whatever we're starting, we will refuse to be blocked. We will refuse to be inhibited. We will be in that mode where we will see things through to the end. Do you know what I mean? So our commitment is very, very important. Whatever we're dedicating ourselves to, whatever we're committing ourselves to, it will be very productive. So what I wanted to talk about first, let's get the negative out of the way first before we get into the positive. Now we also have our moon and sun involved in a T-square. So we have Ceres, the goddess Ceres here at 5 degrees in Virgo, in opposition to Neptune at 5 degrees in Pisces. Now 5 is the number of hard work as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very productive. It's all about shifting and movement. So I really do feel like this new moon will shift us into some kind of like, let's get on it. Let's get dedicated. If we're dedicating ourselves to a cause or a project or a charitable organization, I just feel that it will do very well right now. And, but there's a little bit of stress around it. There's a little bit of stress, and I think that is from the Saturn retrograde. It's like we're mentally inhibited because we're not confident, maybe, about pushing forwards on our ideas. Or, maybe there's jealousy there around it as well. Maybe, we're being blocked by people around us that really, like you get people around you and you're coming up with a good idea that's going to take up a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. And there could be people around you that can resent that. They don't want you to go into that project because, it will mean that they get left behind, sort of thing. Or it could be, people that are quite dominating. No, I didn't say you could do that, so you're not doing it. And when I say dominating people, it could be like anything from authority, in corporate authority, government authority, or even, your boss, or anything around those lines. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, you can't have time off to do that because I need you here. But really, they don't need you there. They're being quite dishonest about it. Do you get what I mean? It's that kind of energy that I'm seeing here. But I just feel that many people, many of us will be like, well, no, I'm doing it anyway. I don't care. Whereas others will be like, okay, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to cause any more chaos than it's already been caused. Do you know what I mean? I can do without all the aggro. So, as much as I have this wonderful idea and I know it's going to be productive, I'm going to allow this authority to stop me from doing what I want to do. And, I feel that if you're in that frame right now, then maybe you're not quite ready yet. Maybe you just need to do a little bit more self-healing, get a little bit more into your self-power by doing self-empowerment meditations, or, do you know what I mean? Reflecting on your environment, on where you want your future to be, on where you want to take your path. What path do you want to take in life? Because I'm also seeing in this chart that there's a lot of people, or, a few people out there that really don't know what to do, where to start, or just have no idea of what's really going on around them right now, because maybe they're absorbed into this singular thing. Maybe they're absorbed in themselves or absorbed in something that stops them from looking around them or following a narrative. And taking it as gospel. So let's move on to the kite, actually. So we have a kite aspect here. We have the south node at the bottom of the kite, entwined to Saturn, and here in London with the midheaven, entwined to the moon, sun, and the goddess Juno, and then back to the south node. This is part earth and part air. So this is air and earth, this grand trine here. And then we have fire on top. We don't, in the true lifetime sky, we do get a mixture of elements in aspects, not like the 12 sign tropical astrology, where normally, the aspects, the grand trines are normally in one element. So this is like the true lifetime sky. So it is as it is astronomically. So it's not really unusual for the true lifetime sky to have like different elements involved in a grand trine. But right on the top of the kite, we have the North Node and Jupiter. Now, as we know, Jupiter is all about expansion. And this actual conjunction here has been pretty positive. Do you know what I mean? Especially in Aries. It's all about groups of people coming together to fight for justice or to fight for a cause. And I don't mean fight as in aggressiveness. I mean like putting action into projects, putting action into like maybe even speaking up, speaking out, educating people on ideas. Do you know what I mean? But with the south node at the bottom of the kite, in Virgo, we can kind of like go up into the realms of the ethers, which is the top of the kite. And, depending on which way the wind's blowing, I mean, if it's blowing towards the moon, sun, and the goddess Juno, then, 1 minute we're committing to a cause, and then it blows over to Saturn in Aquarius and the midheaven here in the UK, and it's blowing this way, which means that we need to really reflect on our freedom and our sovereignty. But are we being blocked by authority or establishments? And, so we're having all these wonderful ideas, but we're backwards and forwards. Is it going to be blocked? And this is, again, all connected to the Saturn retrograde here. And the big come down is like focusing too much on a detail, on statistics or the written word even. Do you know what I mean? The what would they call it? Like the statutes. The statutes. There could be too much focus on detail, or maybe we need to go to the statutes and learn what our rights are. So we're all expanding. Not all of us, but a lot of us really are expanding our spiritual, creative ideas, especially with the number 3 and the number 7. Do you know what I mean? 7 and 3 are both very spiritual numbers. I mean, 3 is the number of Jupiter, and Jupiter represents all things philosophical and spiritual as well as abundance and expansion. So, the North Node is giving energy to the expansion of Jupiter. The only thing we need to watch out for is that we don't expand things too quickly. Like there's a certain group of people out there that are expanding things too quickly. I mean, that is destined for failure, because if we expand too quickly, it's like a bubble like a balloon. If it expands too quickly, it just bursts, doesn't it? So we need to get the big ideas, come down and not over focus too much on in detail, but you know, read or study the statistics or the statutes and see how we can get around things, seeing things from a different perspective and dedicating ourselves to it. But this aspect here, we can also build castles in the sky. So we just need to watch out for that. We need to definitely form boundaries with this aspect as well. You know, not commit or dedicate ourselves to something where we're giving, 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 and we're not getting nothing back. You know, and this includes intimate relationships as well. Because with Neptune in square to the goddess Juno, there's many of us out there that are seeking a soulmate or a soul group. You know, we need to find a connection. In the process, we can become very needy about emotional support, having that emotional support or having that soul union that we can end up committing to like a pipe dream. Do you know what I mean? So whether that's in a soul group or a soul mate, we need to be very careful of what we're committing to, not rush into anything. We mustn't rush in or expand too quickly, you know, and Aries can be very quick in and very quick out. That energy can be in and out in a blink of an eye. So, you know, we do need to be cautious. And, you know, Saturn is all about being cautious. But in Aquarius, which is a good aspect, especially in retrograde, it can help us to see new things through fresh eyes. Do you know what I mean? But it's also, Saturn in Aquarius is also the bridge between the old and the new. So, you know, that can be in the negative and positive aspects. Do you know what I mean? It's how we take that energy and use it that's important. But, you know, with Jupiter and sextile to Saturn, you know, it can be good for business. It can be good for fulfilling our obligations with integrity. And again, you know, this Jupiter sextile Saturn can bring communities together. So soul tribes can be coming together right now in either, you know, in bigger formats. And like I said, you know, 2023 is going to be very similar to 2020 when it comes to people coming together in large, large quantities and making friends, you know, soul unions, etc. So a lot of people come together in 2020 and in 21. But 2020 was big because it was the kickstart. And I feel this is going to be another kickstart to like groups of people coming together. But it's going to be like the next step forward. And as much as we mustn't hesitate in taking that step forward, we must also not take that step too quickly either. So we also have another kite here as well. And, you know, the kite with moon is pretty thick and pretty strong. But we also have this kite here with the goddess Vesta entwined to Pluto, entwined to the goddess Ceres, who's also, remember, in this T-square aspect with Neptune, the sun and moon. So Neptune is actually on top of this kite. So, you know, this aspect here between Neptune and Ceres is very, very important, this opposition. because, like I said, you know, it can be all about confused boundaries, knowing where we should put our energy. You know, it's got to be mutual. Any anytime we're putting things into something, it's not like, oh, I'm going to put all this energy or all this product or produce into this project and just give it, just hand it over and not get anything back. I mean, if we're going to a charity and we're donating, that's different. But even with donations, we have to draw a line. I mean, even with donations, we pay a donation of what we can afford, but we mustn't give all our money over to the donation and then have nothing to live on for the rest of the month. It works the same with energy. We can't put all that energy into something and not be replenished. So again, I feel intimate relationships or groups, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there that like to ride the camel's back. And, there's a lot of people out there that are very generous and very giving, but sometimes they can be blind to these type of people and get basically used, I suppose. So I think, if we're in our self-power, then we're not going to be hoodwinked. If we're in our self-power, it's not like we become demanding. No, I gave you this, so I'm demanding that. It's not about that. It's about knowing what we're putting into, knowing that what we're putting in, what we're going to be getting out of that. It's about give and take. And give and take has got to be mutual, not necessarily on at the same time on the same day. It could be like, well, look, I'm going to put this in this week, but maybe next week you can put something in, or even next month or next year. It's all about trust and commitment and honesty, but we should know who we're dealing with or what we're dealing with. And I feel this especially around relationships as well. Maybe because we are looking for that soul connection, we are looking for that emotional support, that we may be, like I said, a little bit needy and commit ourselves a little bit too quickly or put too much into that relationship before it's actually due, put it that way. So, we just need to be careful of that. And I think really with Pluto in trine to the goddess Vesta, it's like, wow, this is like a spiritual calling. This is all about what we're willing to sacrifice for our higher cause. And it's all about surrendering to our passions or our spirituality, being dedicated to our spiritual mission in life. And with this Neptune top of the card, we have an opportunity to really get in touch with our soul, but with nurture. Do you know what I mean? We mustn't be too afraid either. I mean, because there's always an opposite, with this aspect as well. So as much as we can be overgiving, sometimes we can be undergiving, especially if we've been hurt before or we've only just put boundaries into place and now we're frightened to like ease up on those boundaries a bit in case like we just go to pieces. Do you know what I mean? So, we just need to know that whatever we're willing to sacrifice, whatever we're willing to commit and dedicate ourselves to, especially for a spiritual mission in life, then we have to make sure that it's definitely our mission, definitely our path. And I feel many of us now are coming into our spiritual calling, our spiritual mission. And it doesn't mean we need to go out and shoot preaching to everybody. It's not about that. It's about being connected to your soul. It's about knowing right from wrong instinctively. and not having to go to statutes to learn it. Do you know what I mean? It's all about nature and natural, organic morals and principles. Let's put it that way. So also at this new moon, we have the black moon Lilith, really just in conjunction with Mars. Now, the black moon Lilith is actually conjuncting my own natal Mars as well. So that's probably where I'm getting all this energy. I've had this enormous surge of energy since the Ophiuchus full moon. And my Mars is actually in the early degrees. I think it's 2 degrees in Leo, my Mars. And so Mars is actually, I'm having a Mars return coming up soon. But also the Black Moon Lilith is conjuncting my Mars as well as the goddess Pallas. So yeah, now I understand why I'm getting this enormous surge of energy. And I've done a lot of shadow work over the years. I've been talking about the Black Moon Lilith for over 10 years now. I've included her into my astrology reports. And, I've also got my natal Venus conjunct my Black Moon. So that really does balance out a lot of the negative traits of the Black Moon's energy. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. But I do get these aggressive moments, though, with these conjunctions that are going on at the moment. I'm getting all these bouts of aggressive energy. I'm being productive with that energy as best I can. Not saying I don't get ratty and irritable. Um, like if someone asked me the same question 3 times in a row and I've just explained myself, I don't have much patience anyway as an Aquarius moon. I don't have much patience to keep going over and over the same old thing. But at the same time, you know, like I said, I've been up the allotment, digging and planting. I've been in my garden, cutting and trimming and organising. And, in my home, like sanding and varnishing and stuff like that, moving things around and doing this deep, deep clean. I just feel to do this deep, deep clean right now. So if you're feeling a little bit similar, if the energies are affecting you a little bit similar, yeah, please do let me know. But it's been very productive, but also, like I said, in its negative sense, this can be very disruptive. This Black Moon Lilith conjunct Mars energy can be very disruptive as well, because if we're not aware of our shadow side, then we can be very explosive at times, throw tantrums, feel really over emotional for no reason at all, or it just feels like that. Or other people might say, wow, hold on a minute, you just blew up out of nowhere. What was that all about? Do you know what I mean? But I really do feel this disruptive energy is coming from the goddess Pallas as well, in conjunction to the Black Moon Lilith, because the Black Moon Lilith is encouraging Pallas to see the picture, to recognize the patterns, to fight for justice. Mars is the ruler of Aries. So that's what I'm saying. The expansion here can also be very disruptive. We can rush into things, rush in and basically fall flat on our face. So we need to not burst our bubble. If we're going to go into something, you know, expand, but expand slowly. Don't be too quick and too fast, whether that's in relationships, projects, charitable organizations, religious cults. I shouldn't use the word cult, but I see all religion and spiritual practices as cults. It's the occult. We mustn't rush into things too quickly because we're either feeling lonely or, feeling we need that emotional support, or literally we've been hoodwinked into it. So you must do a little bit of reflection on whatever it is you're entering into at the moment. And definitely Know where you're taking it. Don't just follow something because you're feeling a little bit lost at the moment. Because with this Neptunian energy that's going on right now, I would say some of us can be feeling a little bit lost. We don't know where we're going, what we're doing, like I said earlier. So if we're in that mode, then we really do need to gain inner guidance, reach out to the universe and ask for guidance if you're that way inclined. Do you know what I mean? It works for me, works for many others. So, you know, trust your instincts, write things down, write down your feelings, write down your worries or your apprehensions. Do you know what I mean? Write them down and express them, but don't rush into something trying to find security, because 9 times out of 10, the quicker we're in, like I said, sometimes we can go into things and we can't get back out. Do you know what I mean? Or we go in and then our dreams are shattered. So rather than go through that experience, just be cautious, just take your time and be in your self power. So that's that for the new moon. So the next thing I want to discuss is the June solstice. Now, it will be the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, and it will be the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. So the sun will be at 36 degrees in Taurus on the 21st in the afternoon. Now, I'm not sure, it will go into Gemini on the 21st as well. So those of you born before the year 2000, the sun would have entered into Gemini on the 20th of June. But since the year 2000, the sun has started to move into Gemini on the 21st. Remember, this is astronomy, not tropical astrology. And the sun will still be in conjunction to the goddess Juno. The moon would have moved on. The moon will be at 10 degrees in Cancer, the sign of Cancer. So we have a little stellium here, actually. There will be a planetary alignment actually on the 17th as well, the day that Saturn goes into retrograde. So the alignment will be Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, Uranus, and Mercury. So watch out for that on the 17th. I'll probably stick up an article from Star Walk in my group on Facebook. So those of you that follow me on Facebook, I will upload that article to my Facebook group, and you can read about the planetary alignment that occurs on the 17th. So if you look in the sky on the 17th, if you've got clear skies, you should be able to clearly see all these planets. If any of you out there that have got a telescope and you can get a picture of these planets, I'd love to receive that. I'd love to see it, because I live in London, I don't really get an opportunity to view the stars the way other people do that are more rural. So the solstice, yeah, we still got the kite with Neptune, with Pluto and that, but the one with the moon, that's still there. The one, yeah, that's still there as well, with the nodes on top. Yeah, so the two kites are still there. We've still got this T-square as well. So not much changes with the major aspects. But we do have this little stellium here with the moon, Venus, Mars, the goddess Pallas, and also the black moon Lilith, who will be at 3 degrees Leo in an exact conjunction with the goddess Pallas. Now, I just feel like there could be some relationship issues come up around the solstice. Do you know what I mean? Where it can be quite emotional. And again, the moon in Cancer can be pretty shut down, or, suffer a bit of abandonment issues or rejections. Do you know what I mean? And Yeah, so I feel if we're rushing into anything at the new moon, when it comes to relationships or other kind of commitments, maybe financial commitments or charitable organization commitments, then I think around about the solstice is when we start seeing the cracks. So just watch out for that. And yeah, so really, there is a quincunx here with the sun and Pluto. That's the only thing on this day that really changes this quincunx aspect between the sun and Pluto. Now, talking about the stellium here, like I just said, there can be like control issues. And I always say when Venus and Mars come together, there can be control issues there as well, where Venus actually can be quite pushy in this aspect. And if we've rushed into things, like I said, sometimes we can rush into things. It's easy to get in, but it's not always easy to get out of situations once we're in them. Do you know what I mean? So that's why we need to be extra cautious this new moon about what we're taking on. Because there's a lot of unconditional love flying around. There's a lot of empathy, a lot of like, in our higher realms where, we're looking for that soul connection. Um, so, if we're rushing into something, definitely around about the solstice is where the cracks will begin to show. And this quincunx aspect, yeah, we need to watch out for control issues. Do you know what I mean? Also, we can be taken for granted. Do you know what I mean? So if we've been very giving or over giving or very charitable, that expectancy from others we can be taken for granted. So I think, within the first few days, actually, whatever we're rushing into within the first few days, like I said, the cracks will show. So just watch out for that. Now, we've also got Neptune going into retrograde. So let's move on to that chart. So Neptune will begin his retrograde on the 30th of June at 20:29 in the GMT time zone. Once again, if you want to know the time that the Neptune retro begins in your locality, just go to the world clock in 20:29 GMT London and convert it to your own locality. So, wow, look at this chart. Now, this is probably just a mess to many of you, but those of you that understand astrology, wow, look at all this entanglement going on. So we have quite a lot going on. I mean, for those of you that use all the asteroids as well, it's like, wow, you're amazing because I really couldn't get through all that entanglement. So, we still have this kite, although the Jupiter is now separating from the North Node. So this aspect on expanding our communities and ideas and stuff like that is kind of like subsiding a little bit at this point. Now, as Neptune goes into retrograde, especially in Pisces, we can get a lot of deja vu with that energy. And we can also get a lot of downloads, start getting downloads. But really, when Neptune goes into retrograde in his own sign of Pisces, we are really learning how to form boundaries by reflecting on, you know, past situations where boundaries weren't properly put into place and where maybe we got a little bit hurt or we got a little bit done over. Do you know what I mean? So this retrograde, Neptune retrograde, we can actually let go of the past and heal it and actually come out with it a stronger person if we use that energy wisely. Yeah. So again, Neptune will still be in opposition to the goddess Ceres. And again, that's all about boundaries, like I spoke about before. But it can either be overgiving or not giving enough. Do you know what I mean? And I feel by this point, actually, so from the new moon through the solstice, right up to the Neptune retrograde on the 30th, there can be a lot of like vampism, energy vampires out there. You know, we need to watch out for that. You know, victim mentality or victim behavior. And, you know, we need to watch out for that. There's also tendencies towards escapism with this retrograde, or again, you know, enforcing our ideals, or because, you know, Neptune can be quite dominating when he's ready. So he can push boundaries when he's ready as well. So either we've got to learn not to, when to stop pushing boundaries and when to form boundaries. It really depends on the individual and where they're at on their path. Do you know what I mean? So some of us could have been really shut down where we've been hurt in the past or we've been done over and we're frightened to let our guard down. So that is something that needs healing here. Or we can be overgiving. Do you know what I mean? So we're learning to form boundaries. Now, when we first learn to form boundaries, we hold on to them very tightly because we have to learn how to give and take. And with Neptune, wow, you know, it can be all in or all out. You know, sometimes we can be too much in building castles in the sky, too much in wishful thinking and believing that that's our reality. Do you know what I mean? So we just need to watch out for that. And I say that because we've got this Yod aspect as well, which we will be getting into in a minute with the moon, the goddess Ceres, that's involved in this Neptune aspect. So we have this beautiful trine. I mean, it is separating now. Um, this Neptune trine is very good, especially with the moon in Scorpio and Neptune in Pisces. It's a very, very psychic energy. So Pisces is very psychic energy. Scorpio is also a very psychic energy. But Scorpio's energy can also be very manipulative as well, and very investigative, and very secretive as well. So they can, Scorpio, that Scorpion energy can ferret out secrets, but not really reveal his own. So I would just say watch out for cover-ups as well during this time. And yes, but we can be also very kind of hypersensitive as well with that trine. So it's very easy to be too much in our feelings. Do you know what I mean? Whether those feelings are empathic or whether they actually stem from a little bit of like bitterness or jealousy. So we may see things escalate around those subjects. And we have this Yod aspect. So we have the goddess Ceres in sextile to the moon. Now, this is a really good opportunity for those of us that have been very shut down to open up and really express our true feelings, you know, in a caring, productive way. Um, or it can be a really good opportunity for emotional healing through creativity and self-nurture. So with all this ethereal energy that's coming in around the Neptune retrograde, I would say like, you know, again, keep a journal. We're going to be prone to downloads and a lot, picking up on a lot of psychic energy. But if we're a novice to psychic energy, we need to be careful that we're not picking up on other people's energy as well and taking them on as our own energy. We need to know our own energy. So it's a good time to really work on self-nurture. Do you know what I mean? A lot of pampering, maybe salt baths, Epsom salt baths, cleansing, all forms of like cleansing the soul through meditation, exercises, or, you know, anything along, even diet. You know, maybe we need to look at our diet and just maybe even go on a juice cleanse or something like that for a couple of days, or clean out our systems. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually doing a clean out at the moment with ascorbic acid. So I'll go through these bouts where I go on ascorbic acid for 2 weeks. It's very good for clearing out the body of like anything that shouldn't be there, like, your gut, anything bad bacteria, mold in the body, anything really that's old and shouldn't be there. Ascorbic acid is very good for flushing out. I mean, some people do juicing and stuff like that. I haven't actually had time for all that because I've been working so hard. So I need to listen to my own advice. But I have been doing the ascorbic, so I'll do that for 2 weeks, and then I'll go on a whole month of B complex vitamins, mixed mineral vitamins. Do you know what I mean? That's my way of doing it. But everybody has their own way. Some people do it with food, some people do it with vitamins. And yeah, so it's a really good time at the end of the month, actually, at the end of June, to actually get into self-nurture programs and maybe meditation groups even, or just meditations online. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have got Steve Noble's link at the bottom of in my description box. I mean, he does fantastic meditations for all different things. So I'll definitely recommend you go to his channel and pick out some meditations there. Because I really do feel that we will be in the mood and be able to meditate. So, there's an opportunity here for some emotional healing and self-nurture. But this yod against the North Node, it's like maybe our environment doesn't allow us time to actually be able to work on ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Or, maybe we just don't feel like we fit in anywhere into the current mood out there. Maybe we feel a little bit different. Our way of thinking, we may feel a little bit different and need to connect with others that think the same or feel the same, but that will come. But first, we have to work on ourselves before we do that. We can't go into groups and just get all our healing from a group of people or another person. We've really got to do the groundwork within ourselves first if we haven't already done that. And also, we've got to be willing to open up, to meet people. We've got to be willing to let down our guard a little bit and take a risk. As long as we are self-empowered enough to put up boundaries if we're recognizing signs that are kind of unsavory. If we're recognizing signs that, hold on, I've been here before, deja vu, I've been here before, I can see where this is going. How do I get out of this? It's not about how do I get out of it. It's like, right, I've got to put my boundary back up before I get too deep into this and move out of it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Don't rush into anything, but do work on yourself and know that, the universe, the spirit realms, that divine energy has got all our backs and is willing to work with us all as long as we are willing to listen and learn. And sometimes we need to learn to enjoy our own company. I mean, many of us may have been in our own company for a very long time, and we're just so used to it there. We find it hard to mix with other people. Do you know what I mean? Because we're so used to being independent and alone. Or, or sometimes we have that sense of loneliness because we have been on our own. We're not used to being on our own. But, this is a wonderful opportunity to actually get a lot of healing from the planetary energies that are coming in around Neptune retrograde on the 30th of June. So, with the moon in quincunx to the north nodes and with Ceres in quincunx to the north nodes, it's like some of us may I mean, with Ceres in quincunx to the North Node, there may be like an inability to commit or dedicate ourselves to one to one life path or one direction. Maybe it's because we're confused about our heads. Like I said, that's been stirring up since the Saturn went into retrograde on the 17th, and it's been building, building, building. And there's a lot of people, or there's quite a few people out there that still feel pretty lost and alone right now, and not sure where to go because they're cautious, which is a good thing, or they just don't know. But like I said, you need to be open to listen to your inner guidance, to even universal guidance. Reach out if you need to. Research. Do you know what I mean? There's so much information out there. Maybe you're involved in a lot of online groups, but you need that physical interaction. Do you know what I mean? So, but you don't know where to start, where to go. Well, you just do a little bit of research into events that are going on in your area where you can make those kind of connections. But I just feel that, there's a little bit of confusion with this quincunx. And, it's all about confidence and maybe a little bit of lack of self-worth as well, as what I'm saying. Self-nurture, self-healing. Even for those of us that are in our self-power, we're in that nurturing energy. Even we need to do cleansing. Like I'm doing a cleanse at the moment. I will do an Epsom salt bath. If you've got a bath, you can do that. Even do a foot spa, anything along those lines. Anything that will make you feel good. That feel good feeling, that connection to the divine is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So some people get that through religion, but some people get that through nature, working with nature. I just feel maybe there's something escalating publicly, like in the media, that's just going to make people feel a little bit apprehensive. And it's going to be the same old, really. We just need to follow our own hearts and our own minds. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to leave it there. And as always, sending you peace and much love. Take care.